Okay, so playing jazz in odd time signatures is something that has been around since at least the album Time Out by Dave Brubeck, where they play this tune, right? Take 5. I'm not aware of any examples of odd time signatures in jazz prior to that album, so if anybody knows, please let me know. But today we've had players like Brad Mehldau and others who play super advanced performances of odd time signatures. If you haven't heard Brad Meldau's trio play All the Things You Are from an album I think is called The Art of the Trio, that's a great example of playing jazz in odd time signatures. And by odd time signatures, I mean 5 and 7. You could obviously create more advanced, complex time signatures, but I'm going to focus here on playing in 5 and 7. Actually, 7 is the most common, I think. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm not going to dive into it too much. I'm going to try to give you something. If you are not super comfortable doing this, hopefully I can give you some advice on how to approach playing jazz in odd time signatures if you never have done that, or if you're kind of not sure how to go about doing that. So let's get started. We're going to try to play in 7. So I'm going to pick the chord, the A section of What Is This Thing Called Love. So that's what I was playing in the beginning there. So G minor 7 flat 5 to C 7, F minor, D minor 7 flat 5 to G 7 to C major. So we're gonna play that in 7. So the easiest way to think of 7 is to think of it as groups of 4 plus 3. And that's, I think, is most common. In Balkan music you can hear 3 plus 4, but I'm gonna focus on 4 plus 3 here. So it's basically a grouping of 4 plus 3. And there are 2 specific rhythms that I think of when I think of 7. So if we have 7/8 here, the first thing you can do is just think of it as 2 half notes and 2 dotted quarter notes. So okay, so if I play those as chords, it sounds like so that's basically what I had on my little looper here. So, easiest thing, just start playing that rhythm. Just play notes and use that rhythm. So something like... chords. Just to get into it, just to get so that it becomes comfortable, you know. And then when you get comfortable, you can start opening up and play around with that rhythm, right? Okay, and now some of you are saying, well, couldn't you reverse that rhythm? And yes, you can, but I'm not getting that's a for later. For now, let's just keep it simple and try to get started doing this. Okay, so the next thing to think about when you're playing a 7 is to think of kind of a clave. So bop 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 bop. So if I have a 7, so it's basically 3 downbeats and 3 offbeats, right? So if I play that rhythm over the same play or loop here, it's going to sound something like this. Ba 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 ga 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 ba 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 ba. You get the idea. So that's another way you can get into it, so to get to know the 7, kind of. But what's happening for a lot of people that are good musicians, but they're not comfortable playing in 7, I've noticed is that they get locked into that thing. So once you get comfortable playing those rhythms, you get locked and you can't get outside of that. You want to be more free and be able to manipulate the rhythms more and not being locked into bop 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 bop. It can be very limiting in a way. So what I figured out is you need to be able to feel the time in a slower 7. So I'm going to try to explain what I mean by that. So if this is the 7, we want to tap our foot when we're playing this kind of music, right? And you also want to be able not to tap your foot, but you want to be able to do both. So if you're tapping your foot like that, that's too fast. But what happens is if you're tapping half of those notes, you're gonna end up being, that's not an even rhythm. So you want to be able to do this instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm just gonna basically slow down the metronome to half of, now here is 180. So if I set it to 90 beats per minute instead, now I get exactly that. So the same rhythm as before. Right? So if I practice that chord progression with that rhythm, see what I'm doing? So I'm feeling the 7 is in a bigger 7. And you can even slow it down to half of that, which is obviously 45. Let's see if I can do this here. So, here we go. Okay, that opens up so that I'm not as locked into the odd time signature. If you practice like that, you get a freer sense of the 7, as it were. So why are we doing this? It is several reasons that I think it's really great to practice this way. First of all, it's part of the repertoire these days. As a jazz musician, you're supposed to be able to play in 5 and 7. It's going to come up. So it's going to be a handicap if you can't do that at all. But the best reason to practice this way for me is that when you play standards in 7 or 5, and you're used to playing them in 4, your pet phrases, your licks that you're kind of sick of, that the ones that you always play, they don't work. So you have to adjust your playing. So you're breaking old finger habits, right? That's the main benefit of practicing this way. Another reason to play this way, to practice this way, is that it's kind of like you play in 4/4, but you cut the last beat. So it's like you're anticipating the next bar always, which is how you're supposed to play. You're supposed to be able to always push, right, to the next chord. That's kind of what creates forward motion. I can't really describe it better than that, but I think you understand what I mean, that it's like you're anticipating the next chord constantly when you're playing in 7. It's a little bit of a trend right now to play jazz in 7, and it can be overdone. Like, I've heard guys that go to music school, college, and they can play giant steps in 7, but they can't really play it in 4/4, and that's kind of weird to me. So it has been a little bit of an overused thing. So use your discretion and try to use your taste when you're doing this. You should always do that anyway. So let's move on to 5 now. The rhythm we're going to use is 2 dotted quarter notes and 2 quarter notes, kind of like the tune Take 5. Bop, bop, bop. Ding, 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 ding. So using that rhythm over the A section of What Is This Thing Called Love? Or actually, let's do one of each. That. Okay, so same thing there. I just started playing that rhythm, just improvising using that rhythm, and I'm gonna, okay, so the next rhythm you can think is 2 downbeats and 2 offbeats, like bop 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 bam bam gun gun, down down up up, down down up up. So Alright, so let's use that rhythm. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, that was my little introduction to how to play jazz in odd time signatures. I shall see you next time.